Shalom everyone. Wow, what a night, what a historical time to be living in. Last night I woke up at about 3:15 a.m. along with the rest of the state of Israel from a siren. But it turned out that it wasn't a regular siren that was supposed to warn us from a missile attack. It was a kind of wake-up call to let us know that the state of Israel has attacked Iran and that we could be in for a retaliation attack. It turned out that there wasn't such an attack, or there was one, but it was infiltrated, it was taken down. But so a little bit of background. I'm sure you know most of this by now, but just a little bit of background. So somewhere in the middle of the night, the Israeli Air Force and the military launched a massive attack on all the nuclear facilities in Iran, and also the facilities in charge of manufacturing their long-range ballistic missiles. It also took down several military chiefs, including the chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Hussein Salami is his name, and the chief of staff, and the head of the Air Force, and many other officials, and also some of the major scientists that were working on the nuclear weapons. It was very clear that the Iranians were not prepared. It appears that part of the plan was to create the semblance of a dispute between Netanyahu and Trump, making it seem as if Netanyahu was all in to making the attack, but Trump was against it, and making the Iranians assume that if Trump is against it, it's never going to happen. All that was sort of to lull them into the sense of security, and of course it was all really set up between Trump and Netanyahu. Trump is fully behind the attack. The US military did not take part in the attack, but it's fully behind. And Trump declared it a very successful event. If you see some people saying this was Netanyahu dragging Trump into a war or fighting against U.S. diplomacy, that's nonsense, because Israel and the U.S. are working very, very closely together. And again, Trump is totally backing this up. Clearly, this is a momentous time, a life-changing, history-changing moment. And in order to really understand what's going on here, we need a little bit of a background just to remember what the Iranian regime is all about and what led to this, basically. So for 46 years, ever since 1979, Iran has been ruled by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, which came to power, not democratically, through the Iranian Revolution. They instituted a very radical, very political, force-based Islamist regime, suffocating all liberty, using torture, using arrests to basically silence any kind of opposition. They've immediately started, from day one, to spew out the message of death to America, death to the West, and of course death to Israel. They called America the Great Satan. They called Israel the Little Satan. They educated the school children from a very young age to chant this again and again, death to America, death to Israel. They also declared again and again that they wish to destroy Israel, that Israel is like a cancer, that it's something that's poisoning and destroying the Middle East, and it has to be completely annihilated, and it will be completely annihilated. They said this again and again. We have to be clear. Israel has never, ever displayed any desire to destroy Iran or any other country. No school in Israel chants death to Arabs or Iranians or to Iran or to Syria, to any other place. It just never happens. It does happen in every official school in Iran. We are people who want to live, and there are a people or an ideology, the Islamist ideology, that also wants to live, but mostly wants to kill, to destroy this alien, what they see as this alien entity, stemming out of this very, very profound Jew hatred, and also very, very profound Islamist ideology that wants basically, ultimately, all the world to bow down before Islam, to be governed by their version of Islam, which is founded basically in the final words or messages of Muhammad himself. He wanted Islam to take over the world, and he was unabashed about using force in order to do so. Islam indeed was the fastest growing empire far, far faster than the Greek, the Roman, with the Crusades. And then this has the caliphate at some point later in history began to diminish. But then there are all these forces that want to revive the old Islamist expansionism, and Iran is very much one of those leading forces. Now, when Iran says that it wants to totally annihilate Israel on the way to annihilating America, because Israel is, again, the little Satan, America is it's the great Satan, it's not just words, it's also deeds. They started building, over the past, again, 45, 46 years, they started building a network of proxies, especially the three H's, which is Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis in Yemen. Hamas is in Gaza, and a little bit in the West Bank also. Hezbollah is in Lebanon, was in Lebanon. It's pretty much completely dismantled by now. Hamas is also on its way to totally collapsing. And the Houthis in Yemen, which are, again, have been totally weakened over this past year and a half, but are still have some facilities, have some capabilities, and are still throwing missiles at us. We were sure in the middle of the night that we were being attacked by the Houthis. Anyway, it doesn't matter if it's Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, it's all really Iran. This was a massive terror network, or a ring of fire surrounding Israel, and with its goals set on the rest of the West, following Israel. But it starts with the little Satan, the representative of Western colonialism, or Judeo-Christian colonialism, or whatever we call this. So Iran is at the epicenter of all this terror in the Middle East. It's not the only agent, but it's one of the biggest, most influential players. It has been financing, and it was also the strategic mind behind the October 7th massacre, which, to remind you, was not just planned to attack the Gaza envelope. The original plan was to cooperate together with the Hezbollah from the north, with the Houthis from afar, to basically destroy all of Israel, even before Iran had its nuclear weapons. Iran also tried two times to assassinate, at least 2 times that we know of, to assassinate Trump. Now, in addition, in this time, Iran has also been working very hard to develop nuclear weapons. And it's been proceeding and advancing. It was partially enabled over several years by the Obama administration, then by the Biden administration, because they allowed them to receive a lot of funds and basically to work uninterrupted. It was hindered by the first Trump administration, and now with the second Trump administration, everything is going on with the war. Now it's being completely stopped. But you have to understand, there are no masks here. There's no game of pretend. All the intentions of Iran are and have been writ large. The writing has been on the wall in like the most massive letters you can imagine. And so if there's one thing we learned from October 7th, is that if those Islamist militants, or those groups, those states, those movements, when they threaten that they're going to annihilate us and they're going to kill us and tear our hearts out, like Sinwar said, they really mean it, and they're going to act by those words. It's part of their sort of Islamic sort of honor that they're not going to lie. They're going to be they're not playing a diplomatic game. They're not being sort of nice to the cameras. They're saying very, very clearly. It's only very, very naive people in the West who see them as these freedom fighters, whatever, but their intentions are very clear and very outspoken. So if Iran has said repeatedly that it wants to completely annihilate us, and it is working on a nuclear bomb, then where it's going, where it's heading is very, very clear. Once they have the bomb, they will not hesitate to use it. And they will also not give one iota about all the Palestinians and Arabs who live in the land of Israel. We have 2 million Arab citizens here, and we have all the other Palestinians in the West Bank, in Gaza. They would also die from the same atomic nuclear attacks, but they would all be declared shaheeds, martyrs for the sake of the greater Islamic victory. They already treat the Palestinians as their cannon fodder. We know this because they're using those human shields, and because they didn't build any shelters for them, and because it was comfortable for Iran to be in the distance and to sort of activate Hamas and activate Hezbollah at the expense of so many of the Palestinians. So they wouldn't care at all for all the Palestinians who would die once they attack us with a nuclear weapon, once they have it. Now, recently there has been a lot of talk between the US and Iran about allowing Iran to enrich uranium only for peaceful activities, not in order to build a bomb. But it turns out that at the same time as this negotiations were going on, they have been accelerating their manufacture of a nuclear bomb, nuclear weapons. And in fact, they were en route to building 9 such bombs. 9 nuclear weapons it's enough, more than enough, to completely, if not completely wipe out the state of Israel, than to do it virtually completely, and to destabilize it and kill most of the people who live here. So all this was very, very clear. The meaning of all this is that this attack was long overdue, and it is absolutely justified. In fact, not only is it justified, it's a gift to the world. It's something that is going to save not just the Middle East, not just the Iranian people from their horrible regime, but the rest of the world. The only reason it didn't happen before was because it was too frightening and too dangerous to do it before, because of the network of proxies that Iran built and spread out across the Middle East. Because if we would have done so, we would have been immediately attacked by Hamas and the Hezbollah and the Houthis. Now that Hezbollah is all but gone, the Hamas is very close to being gone, and the Houthis are again very, very weakened. It became possible. We basically took down their all their friends that they built, that they instilled in all these areas, and now we're free to do what has been justified long ago, and as again is a gift to the world, is going to save the world, which is completely remove the nuclear capabilities. Now, I'm not a political commentator, I'm a rabbi, and I want to use all this in order to say something about this from a Torah, a Jewish perspective. In the book of Ecclesiastes, we have a very famous paragraph, one of the most quoted in all the world, from all the biblical verses, which enumerates 28 different times, both light and dark, good and bad, that like the circle of time goes through. It's been turned into a famous song: a time to be born, a time to die, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, and so on. And it all ends, the final pair of these 14 pairs of times is a time for war and a time for peace. It ends with the word peace, the cycle of life, the cycle of birth and death, the cycle of being near to other people, being far, the cycle of fighting and not fighting, all the cycles of life end with the word peace. A time for peace is the final one, because this is the ultimate vision of the prophets and of Judaism, of the Torah. But it just before that, the one before last, is a time for war. We can say that probably the main fundamental difference between the ideology, the perspective, the worldview of the left versus the right is that the left wants a shortcut to peace. It wants to get to peace without passing through the war. It says, why do we need the war? Wars are bad. Wars are violent. Wars are senseless. That's how it appears. If you're looking at it again from like a childish perspective, you're looking at the world and say, why kill each other? People are people, so how can it be that you and I should get along so awfully, as the song says? And they say, make love, not war. And all we are saying is give peace a chance. I'm quoting the more hippie, speakers. But ultimately, this feeling motivates the left more than anything else. The right, on the other hand, is also wants peace. It's not, a dove versus a hawk, or people who love peace versus people who want war, love war. God forbid. If such a right-wing person exists, that they want war, that they love war, this is horrible. And as everyone who identifies more with the right should say, this is not the way. The real difference is that the right also wants peace, but it's more realistic. It realizes that there's also a time for war before the time for peace. And often, very often, most of the times, you have to go through the war in order to get to the peace. It's not just a time for war. It also means that you need to resolve conflicts. You need to get rid of the really war-loving warmongers out there who really are out there to destroy. You have to beat them. They have to submit or maybe be annihilated. And you're willing to do that. It's not a hawk and a dove. It's two doves, but one of them is prepared to fight the hawks of the world and carries arms in order to do so and learns how to do so. Interestingly, by the way, Hebrew, of course, we write it from right to left. So this verse, a time for war and a time for peace, if you write it from right to left, then the word war, in Hebrew it's et milchama ve'et shalom. The word for war appears on the right, and the word for peace, shalom, appears on the left. And as we read it from right to left, we have to go first to the right. And that means being prepared for war, being ready to wage war if necessary. We don't love war, we don't want it. It's a stage in order to later, afterwards, and through this transition and move to the left of the verse and the political left also, we and get to the time for peace. It's just a question of whether we take the short path or the long path to peace. This is the real conflict between the right and the left. It's not love versus hate. It's not war versus peace. It's not dove versus hawk. It's everyone wants peace, everyone wants love, and everyone wants to be a dove. But the question is, do we go through the long path? Which means that we go through the willingness to bear arm and to go through with this and to fight the war. Another verse this totally connects to in a very beautiful way is one of the most beautiful messianic verses, talks about the world to come, about the end of days, and it's loved by everyone in the world because everyone loves peace. This is Isaiah 11:6, and it says, "The wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid." Right, the kid is like a goat, a young goat. So the wolf shall dwell with the lamb instead of eating the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, with the young goat, instead of eating the goat. And it continues with more examples. Then we have a calf and a lion, we have a cow and a bear, and we have a human child and a serpent. The human child is playing with the snake. And all this is predator, the classical predators and preys, but they're no longer predator and prey. They're all together. It's peaceful. It's a vision of world peace. It's a metaphor for world peace, that all these predators and preys, they're going to live together happily ever after. Now, the big question is, how does this happen? So usually we think that it's up to the predators to change, right? The wolves and the leopards need to stop being carnivores. They need to stop eating lambs and kids, and the change is up to them. They have to change, and this is strengthened actually by the very next verse, the one describing. This one says that the lion shall eat straw, just like the ox. It's the very next verse. It talks about the lion shall eat straw like the ox. So this seems to even make it stronger the case that it's up to the aggressive ones, it's up to the militants, it's up to the strong to change their ways and become herbivores, like their prey, like their classical prey. So the big question is, how do we get there? Let's go with this. Let's say, okay, so the entity, the side that has to change is the side of the predator. How do we get there? So here, this is where it splits. This is once again the right-left split. The more naive view, which is more dominant on the left, is that those predators, those violent warmongers, they simply lay down their arms and stop their violent ways. And it splits into like a religious version of this fantasy and a secular version of this fantasy. The religious version is that there's some sweet, peace-loving missionary is going to come to those regimes and quotes. They'll quote the New Testament about all these passages about peace and love, and then they're going to see the error of their ways, and they're going to maybe all become Christian, and then they'll become pacifists, and then again the leopard and the wolf will become these sweet, peace-loving Christians. The secular version of the fantasy is that we send them a bouquet of flowers accompanied with, Imagined by John Lennon. He's more of a secular, of an atheist. There's no Christianity there, but it's the same message. The message is that we're going to give them this monologue about peace and love, and then they're going to all become all of a sudden peace-loving hippies, and put flowers in their machine guns. But there's a totally other option. Both these versions are the same version. It's all about taking the shortcut and expecting the wolf and the leopard and the lion to change their ways, just spontaneously somehow. But there's another way to read these verses. Maybe it's the wolf is able to live with the sheep because the sheep learned how to fight like a wolf. Right? Same for the kid and the leopard. The leopard can lie down with the kid because the kid grew up and became a goat that is able to kick the leopard. And by the way, in Hebrew, this is very beautiful. The kid is gdi, and the mature goat is called ez. Ez is the same letters, same meaning as az. Az means fierce and bold and it's able to fight. And that's the word that is classically used to describe a leopard. We say az kanamer. A leopard is bold and fierce, and so is a mature goat. A mature the goat that grows up becomes an ez, which is like an az. So there's a beautiful allusion here that it's not the leopard who changes first. It's the kid that grows up to be a goat. It's the sheep that stops being like Jews were in the diaspora, that they went like sheep to slaughter. They stop. They start taking up arms. We, the Jews, start taking up arms and become. We start fighting like wolves. And this is, there's a famous saying, we talk about a wolf in sheep's clothing. And we saw this with Hamas when they were releasing the hostages. They made this big fanfare, this big show, that they were so kind and nice about it. And they killed, they kidnapped, they beheaded. They took those totally innocent people, but then they're behaving like it was like summer camp, and they're giving them, souvenirs. And this is a sheep in wolf's clothing. We are the opposite. We want to be a wolf we want to be a sheep in wolf's clothing. We want to be inwardly sheeps in the sense that we want peace and we don't want to be in the state of war. This is our ultimate goal, but we understand that in order to get to peace, we need to go through war. In order to live with the wolf has to feel there's a balance of power. And then so we can reread the whole verses. What causes the wolf to dwell with the sheep? What causes the leopard to dwell with the kid? What causes the lion to start eating straw? It's not because all of a sudden he had a change of heart and wants to eat straw, but because the ox, the cow, the victim, the prey, has turned into a lion in itself. It became so strong, so then the lion can't eat it anymore, and it's forced to become a herbivore, straw-eating, peace-loving. That's the idea of peace through strength, and it proved itself in the Abraham Accords very recently, in which we got to peace without giving land, without doing any major sacrifices. It happened because Israel became strong enough in order to be a major player, political and military player. And then it turned out that Islamic countries realized it's better to make peace with this country, with this people, and become a bit like herbivores, right? Become from very classic predators, nations that hated us, they wanted to destroy us, and they started respecting us because we had more power. So basically the idea is that this is a war. That's what I think. The final message is that I think this is a war for peace. It's not a war for war. The state of Israel, the Jewish people, have never been interested in waging war for the sake of war. There was no desire to massacre anyone, and there's no desire right now. What there is now is this desire to live like a sheep, to live like a kid, to live like a child, but we are surrounded by these serpents and these wolves and these leopards, and so we have to go through this long route. And it also means suffering the slings and arrows of all the Jew haters and all the confused people in the West who are buying into the narrative propagated by Iran and Qatar because they're full of guilt over their own colonial past. But I do believe that if we go through this long route, and if we carry this war all the way to its end, then we're going to see incredible, beautiful blessings. And not just for us, but also for the Persian people the Iranians themselves, who are ruled by this horrible regime, and for the entire world. We'll have to go through the long path, but this war is a war for peace. It's a war that will bring blessing and will bring prosperity to all the region and to all the world. So I really hope that in the not distant future, the Iranian people and the Jewish people, which traditionally have been good friends on good terms, and we can recognize each other from afar as being great nations and intelligent nations, intellectual nations with magnificent civilizations that we don't want to let those horrible Islamist ideologies to destroy, will return to be good friends. And hopefully I'll be able to make you a Torah video from Tehran and broadcast it on this YouTube channel. So here's to the peace that will come after and through the victory of this war. If you like this video, if you have something to comment, please leave your comment. I would love to hear what you think about all this and what's your opinion, what's your take. Leave your comments. I promise to read all the comments. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Hi everyone, if you enjoyed this episode, please press like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. If you want more English language videos from me, please consider becoming a supporter via Patreon. You can find the link in the description below. Thank you very much, and see you in the next episode.